Hey y'all, hey, it's JJ Conway. Welcome to Building Wealth Together, where our goal is to help you walk in abundance and leave a legacy. It's Mindset Monday, where we take the best teachings on mindset, motivation, and leadership and apply them to your life. This helps you get past the past and grow forward into abundance. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, we're doing a special rebroadcast of the series from last month called Countdown to Your Best Year Ever. That class is still free at buildingwealthtogether.com until January 31st, so go check it out. That means some of these Mindset Mondays are going to be a little longer, but I promise you they're totally worth it. Hello everyone. Today we're going to be looking at time-tested success strategies that have turned my business around and will help you generate sales, create really good partnerships and collaborations, and get more leads and more clients. Now, before I dig into it, I want to call your attention to something that's special that I have posted for you. Now, those of you who've been with me all these years, you know I do not recommend anything unless I've made at least 4 times my investment back, right? So what I'm sharing with you in the group is very powerful. It's Daniela Nika's List Building Accelerator. Totally redesigned my business. I really wanted to bring this list building accelerator to you, so I asked her to give me a special link that gets you the best deal on her course, okay? So check it out. There's links on my Facebook group as well as my personal page. The other big announcement is, don't forget, this Friday isn't just Black Friday, y'all. It's Black and Gold Friday. That's right. You do everything for everyone else. It's time somebody did something for you. And I'm doing something for you. I have assembled a powerful cast of women who will speak passion, purpose, and profit into your life this Friday. Instead of buying more stuff, it's time to buy into yourself with this year's Women Building Wealth Together conference. It's our 6th annual conference, and we're going to look at simple strategies to grow your net worth by growing your self-worth, to use boundaries to set you free, lead yourself through toxic situations, and uncover your true purpose, vision, and goals. I am so thankful to have the health, strength, cognitive ability, and stick-to-itiveness to bring this to you this Friday. You can register at buildingwealthtogether.com. Okay, one more thing before we get into it. I want to thank you for your prayers and your support over the car accident, okay? It's been 10 days out, and Cubby is feeling fine. I'm still trying to figure out my new healthcare system now that I retired from the military, and I'm like 2 hours from any base, right? So I've still got to get my neck checked out, but aside from a sore seatbelt shoulder and, of course, lower back issues, everything seems to be much better than that car accident that rocked my world a couple years ago. So let's get into it, y'all. During this time of COVID, many of us in business have had to walk a fine line between providing value to hurting and fearful people, many who've lost jobs or had to close down businesses. And I know for myself, I had to make the decision to preserve my energy and strength to help my family get through this time. I taught a free COVID finance series, and it's still out there for those of you who need it. And I also realized that time is precious. And if I'm not getting paid to serve, then the first people I'm going to serve at no cost are the ones I live with day in and day out. But that doesn't mean we don't grow our business. It doesn't mean we don't stay engaged. It doesn't mean we don't, it just means we've modified the revenue side. But we're still building the engagement and the list and the community. So we're still doing material and developing content. Lots of content, right? And so what have I learned as a business person? Well, you know, I've been a business person for a long time. I started out at a very young age. Some of you who've been with me back through grade school, I've got at least 2 grade school friends on here. I started out as this kid that would sell gum and toys on the playground in 6th grade, you know? I always found a way to get what I want. I had this goodie bag called the store. And after school, I'd use my earnings to buy gum and candy, and then I'd walk the big kids park, and I'd ride my bike down to the base football field, because we lived on an air base in Germany back then, and I'd look for lost and found items that I would sell in my store on the playground during recess. So I've always kind of been a business, right? And so when I started my first official business, though, when I was 23 years old, it was a web design company using this new thing called the internet, right? I built that into a 5-figure business before I sold it. And then I had an online boutique that I built into a 6-figure business, and 17 other businesses that failed, y'all. They flopped or they were ruined by 9/11 until I found my sweet spot, empowering others to win with money. And with that business, I'm on track for 7 figures soon. And I've learned a lot along the way. One of the things that I've learned is that establishing your value is in understanding what people want and being in relentless pursuit to get it to them as quickly, as effectively, and at the highest level of quality you can possibly do, all within a price that they're willing to pay. And it's not just about having the most amazing product or service. It takes a lot more than most people think. And any of you who've tried to go from idea to profit, you know that. You know that you can have the very best idea and you can be right in the heart of Madison Avenue. Oh, you can be right there in the heart of Times Square with the best product and the best service. All those people walking around you and still fail. There's something beyond just that. And working with my financial and entrepreneurial clients over these last 20 years, I've seen that a lot of people think the wrong things are important and don't think the things that are really important are important at all. See, many people underestimate the lost opportunity cost of doing something. Like right now, you're doing this. I'm glad you're doing it. But you're missing something else, okay? Now, I think what you're doing right now, watching me or listening to me, is going to pay off dividends that make it worth your value. But, sometimes you lose opportunity cost doing one thing and you don't realize how important it is until maybe 6 months later when you're like, oh man, I wish I would have had this or that in place. We could have had this or that in place, but we frittered away our time on our cell phones and Facebook and social media and watching junk TV, right? I'm getting calls from people that I've been speaking with in this business, like in the speaking, training, and coaching business, and they want to know, well, JJ, how did you do it? How did you accomplish your 2020 goals that are on your little sticky? And I talk to them, okay? And they're like, I don't want to do that. And they push that off. And they're thinking like, well, gee, I wish I would have done some of that. I mean, imagine if you had an infrastructure in place to capitalize on the current situation. Now, this COVID situation is a bad situation, okay? People are dying. I was down for 3 weeks back in April, so I'm not making light of the situation. But if you had the processes in place to capitalize on this situation, you wouldn't be stressed about money right now. You would have more money, more free time, more capacity to spend time with your children and comfort them and shield them from a lot of the negativity that's going on right now. And of course, a lot of you don't. And so we're not going to say, well, I missed out. No. You can build it right now. You got to strike right now. And oftentimes, it's the ideas that you have in your mind that don't match your existing life. And so we set them aside. And it's not like, everyone was scrambling to find masks and then ventilators. And now I guess the government is scrambling to build these refrigerator farms to store the vaccine, right? Like all these governors and other leaders who over the last 4 or 5 years had these budgets come through their desks that said plan for this, plan for that. These experts came by and said plan for this, plan for that. In fact, last night I was working on a doctoral assignment, and a source that I was required to use that's been in the curriculum ever since it was published came out 18 months before COVID was first released. And it completely outlined our current situation right down to how ill prepared the United States was to handle the situation. So, it's not until you need ventilators, then you realize, oh man, I wish I would have made a different decision. Now look, I'm not being critical of anybody. There's competing commitments in everything, right? And therein lies your ability to know your business, to know your marketplace, to understand where your people are coming from, and to really know the pulse of your client. And I think the strategies that I'm going to share with you over the next couple of weeks are going to really help you go from idea to profit. But I gotta tell you, I'm always amazed at the number of people who want to do 95% of what I suggest and expect 100% of the result. It's that 5% that they didn't think was important It really turns out to be the important bit. Well, I'll take what you've got and I'll do it my way because I think, I could see you need to do it that way, but I think I can get away with doing it this way. Y'all, I did that to my mentors for years, and guess where it got me? 1 or 2 new subscribers a month. Look, you can't feed your family during time of pandemic off 1 or 2 new subscribers, clients, or leads per month. Okay? So that 5%, it also seems like the most insignificant 5%. But whenever you go up to the machine and you turn the red knob, there's a blue box in the back that's spinning around, right? And that blue box is the one that drops whatever it is that you are wanting, okay? That's the last piece. And there's all sorts of machinations that go in between you turning that knob and that box spitting out the last piece, okay? And so let's not forget about the blue box and let's not forget about the red button just because you want to do something that you enjoy, okay? What I love about what I'm going to take you through is it's so simple to understand. You can look at it and you can see and you can be like, oh, okay. Now look, some of them are not that glamorous. Most of them are not glamorous at all. They're intensely practical, and they're the bits that make a difference. Financial planning is not always that glamorous, but it is practical. And when you follow the plan, you get the success. So, the first principle I'm going to share with you, of many that I'm going to share with you over the next couple of weeks, is success leaves clues. Success really does leave clues. And if you look, you can find them. How many of you remember my very first Think and Grow Rich class that I taught out of Power of Deliverance Church in Clinton, Maryland? I think that was like in 2007 or 2008. We did the foreclosure classes and the Think and Grow Rich, and we did the investment classes. Does anyone still have a copy of my little Do What the Best Do? I was trying to be like Napoleon Hill and chart out what the most successful people in my life do. Only I got sidetracked by a devastating and expensive divorce, and it was years before I went back to that document. And I was like, hey, I had all the things I need to do written right here. Success leaves clues, and we can learn from the negative and the positive as well. Actually, often failure is the best learning opportunity. Complaining customers, they're great to learn from. Last night, someone was having trouble with a speaker form for my upcoming conference, and she apologized for asking so many questions. But really, I wasn't bothered because she was helping me get better. So next time will be better. And I think one of the reasons why many people don't see the clues that success leaves is because they don't listen. They get frustrated with the customer who's asking a lot of questions, who instead of seeing them as the value for troubleshooting something you did too quickly. And when we listen with half our mind engaged, when we have the other half kind of focused on other things, we are never going to really be able to achieve what it is we want to achieve. You want to listen to somebody who's got the results you want, proven results, right? And so when I was working with these different mentors like Rusty and Anita and Shauna and Paul and Roddy, and they would tell me something and I'd be like, I know, I got it. But I didn't got it. Because if I'd have got it, then I'd get it. And I wasn't getting it, y'all. There is a big difference between knowing something and having heard something. And oftentimes what I was telling my mentors was really just something I was just repeating back to them. You see, technical leaders have this problem a lot because relationship building when you're in technical mode is almost like a checklist. I said hi to Susan on my way in, check. I asked the engineers in the break room how they're doing, check. Okay, I'm done building relationship for the day. And I have to tell you what, they'll tell you when you talk to them, I know I should be relationship building. I know how to do that. And I said the same thing. But you know what? I didn't really know it at all. Learning it and earning it are completely different things, okay? We hear with our emotions. Oh, I'm so sorry, y'all. We hear with our ears, but we listen with our emotions. And when we listen, we're listening because we've become emotionally involved, okay? And then we begin to give our focus to something, on something, to something. So we hear with our ears and we listen with our emotional mind and we get engaged. You saw that just now. I am positive I turned my phone off before I started recording. And as soon as I heard that, my emotions got all involved and I couldn't even have to tell you anything because I had to solve that problem emotionally before I could move on and give my focus to you, right? Because it's Thanksgiving week and I got one shot to record this. All right. So we listen, we listen with our emotional mind. That's when we get engaged. That's not just hearing something, okay? So learning something and hearing something, completely different things. All right? And it's really, really hard to hear, listen, and be emotionally involved when our mouth is moving. I know. This is so the pot, call it the kettle black. I've learned a lot, y'all. For anybody who's been with me for a couple years, you have seen the growth. All right. You know, I was on the phone with a client the other day and she kept interrupting me. She had read this. She had heard that. She listened to some guru who came through town and had a convention in a hotel. She saw Ron LeGrand or somebody like him on late night TV. But she didn't know. Because if she knew, she would have been on the call with me like, I was about to show her how to turn her $200,000 nest egg into $2 million over 7 years. And I love that. I love when that happens, y'all, because I feel so good. I'm about to give her 10 times return on what she just invested. It's gonna be great. And as I was beginning to tell her, and as I've been trying to tell her, she's like, yeah, I know. And I'm like, no, wait a second. How can you know? Because I'm not telling you her previous results, okay? So I'm like, how can you know? I'm judging by your previous results. You're, oh, no, I know. And so I was like, okay, tell me what I'm about to say. And she gave me this, I don't even know how to describe it nice, y'all, because I actually do love her. She gave me this plan that was not what I was going to say at all. It was completely different, okay? So just listen. We want to do what successful people do. We want to watch and listen. And I've learned to be a copycat, y'all. I'm a maker at heart. That's why I wore my maker shirt today. I love creating content as much as delivering it. In fact, a lot of makers have this issue where we love the making of the item. We love the creation of the item. It gives us joy to bring this thing to life, right? And I've had to learn to be a little bit less original and go with what works first until I get enough experience to be able to create what works first. Make the money first. Get good first. And listen and observe and trust what your mentors say to do. It takes no more energy to tune into success than it does to tune into failure. And like many of you, I was tuning into failure. I was listening to other people who were failing. And the minute I stopped tuning in to the friends I had who were getting the same or worse results than I had, and I started tuning into somebody and seeing how they did everything, somebody who had what I wanted and seeing how they did everything, because how you do anything is really how you do everything, right? Like if you go back to the Science of Getting Rich, which we're going to kick off early next year, he talks about doing things in a certain way, and he talks about thinking in a certain way, and there is a certain way. And the beautiful thing about it is that certain way has already been established. You don't need to go and really reinvent the wheel here. You watch and observe, but you do that with insight, not eyesight. And what I mean by that is when we use our eyesight sees things that are kind of at the physical level, and they see conditions as they are. That's where a lot of our friends have been stuck with, those of us who haven't learned yet to expand our reach. When we use insight, though, we're thinking from a much higher level. We're thinking with the end in mind. We're thinking with a purpose. We're thinking internally. And so we want to observe and focus. And we don't want to let our mind kind of wander around. A wandering mind leads to wandering generalities. And Zig Ziglar said, you don't want to be a wandering generality. You want to be a meaningful specific. Some of you can't cut through the noise to get to those customers you want because you are a wandering generality in a sea of other generalities fighting for their attention. But when you can be specific to their need, a meaningful specific to their need, now you've got their attention. And now their emotions get involved. And now they can hear your voice. If we allow our mind to wander, and most people who are unsuccessful do that, we'll never get to that point. So now let's talk about that real quick, okay? Because I'm really guilty of that in the past. One of the ways that people let their mind wander is letting our mouth wander. They talk when they should be listening. They're not taking notes. They're not taking notes right now. They're just like, okay, I've got it playing in the background, right? Now look, truth in advertising, this was a really hard thing for me because I'm a D-driven type personality, right? And so you know how hard it is for me to watch like an interview because they're talking and I'm getting an idea a minute and then I want to talk to you about it and I want to text my friends about it and then I stop listening. And it's really hard for me. I have had to learn how to discipline myself in that area to say, just hold on. I'm not going to let my mind wander. And one of the first disciplines of not letting my mind wander is not letting my mouth wander, okay? It's tough, I know. And then there's going to be some people who will listen to these types of things and they'll think, oh, well, I'll just do what it is I need to do, what successful people do. Yeah, I could do that. I could be successful, but I really want to create something new. I don't really want to do all that. I mean, what's the fun in that? I want to create, or I want to do something that I've created or I've invented. I've been there, y'all. Like I said, that's why I wore my maker shirt for this. I love to create. But guess what? Many of us who love to create, we don't know what actually works. Find successful people. Success leaves clues. Stick with what works first. One of my favorite speaking engagements is the Makers Fair. And I love being around other creatives. It just gives me joy, y'all, you know? And I usually give my talk, Get Paid to Create, where I give the best practices I've learned from clients who make good money with their craft, as well as the lessons I've learned from those who don't. I get a lot of makers who say, I want you to help me like you help so-and-so. I want you to do that for me. But here's how I want you to do it. And I'm like, but that doesn't really work. You know, it doesn't really work that way. I've already tried that and it didn't work. Success leaves clues. And I would encourage you to start a success clue book. Begin to look at people who have the results you want in an area that you want them in and observe and listen. And hey, ask them. Ask them. You would be surprised at how easy it is to ask somebody who's successful for help. One of my mentors, John Maxwell, tells the story of how he became, he was a young guy, starting out pastor. He became the #1 fastest growing church in the United States, right? And what he did was he made an arrangement. He paid pastors $100 to sit down with him for an hour and let him ask them questions. And he went in with pre-written questions and asked them. And he said, and he likes to say he went in and asked the questions and then he shut up. And he went back and he did what they told him to do. And not a lot of them said yes. Not all of them said yes, but enough of them did. And the ones that did, well, you see what happened. So it pays to get advice. Now, I've done that with real estate investors. I've paid them for their mentoring time and I've always got back more than I paid. And if you ask carefully, sometimes you can get something just by being of service to the person you want advice from. How many of you follow my Facebook and every time I don't feel like walking, what do? I say, hey, office hours are open. Call me. Let's walk and talk because I need to get motivation to get on this road and you want some coaching. It's a win-win-win. It's a value for me. It's a value for you. It's a value for whoever you're going to impact, right? But don't be afraid to pay for mentoring or coaching. I mean, really, consider what's the value of one good idea. If one good idea makes you $25,000, are you willing to invest $2,500 to be mentored? I mean, any idea will work if you're working it right. And so if it's this idea of making space for it, and it's going, and you're going to make space for somebody who understands the value of one good idea, who has accomplished what you want to accomplish, and they are able to bring that to your life. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to pay for it, okay? That's going to be another one of the principles we're going to talk about later, how people lose great opportunities trying to drive a hard bargain. You know, because if somebody has a skill or a talent or resource or something you want to learn, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, okay? Start a success clue book and begin to watch people who are successful and make note of that. Journal it down. And if I may, here's the first thing you should put in it, right? You should put down, on November 27th, I'm going to tune into the Black and Gold Friday, because you're going to have people who are successful in the areas that they do, and they're going to come on, and for a few hours, we're going to have a couple of minutes of just one strategy that can help you. Strategy after strategy after strategy. Something is going to help you take your life to the next level. I mean, come on. What else are you doing the day after Thanksgiving, right? Shopping and eating, and then regretting both of them later. It's time to invest in yourself. And I'm working hard to pack it in, so it's going to be a very efficient use of your time. Success leaves clues, and it's not as hard to find as you might have thought. It's just that you've got to be looking for them. The Bible teaches a fantastic principle. It's the ask, seek, and knock principle. It works every time. Ask, seek, knock, and it will be open to you. But then you got to do something with the answers. Ask, seek, knock, and be willing to do something with the answers. So how can you get started? Well, first of all, look at what you're already doing that's working. You can look at yourself and look at some of the things that you're doing. What are you already doing that's working? Do more of that. Do more of the stuff that works. Then you can also look at what are you doing that's not working. Because plenty of people do a lot of those things. Stop doing that. Just stop. When should you stop? Like right now. Just stop, okay? For many of us, if you would just pause right now and look over the last 30 days of your business and find the people who have opened emails, returned your phone calls, returned text messages, engaged in your social media, bought something from you, like really engaged in any way, that's your market right now. There's all kinds of clues there. There's all kinds of clues there. You can look at what do they have in common. What's the common need? What were they all looking for? What industry were they all in? What region of the country or world are they in? What size company are they in? Everybody's trying to figure out, trying to guess at what their ideal avatar is or who my niche is, right? Go for the last 30 days. There's your niche. There's your avatar. Even if you haven't sold anything yet, who's been interacting with your posts? Who's been liking and subscribing? Who's been commenting? Who's been giving you kudos? Who's been forwarding your content to others? Where did they come from and why? What were you doing that worked? Keep doing more of that. Two of my mentors, right about the start of COVID, they put the sunrise on their page, and 300 to 400 people tuned in. And they were like, hey, let's do that again. And so they realized, they kept doing it, and they were like, wow, that's really engaging people. I think at the height of their posts, the height of COVID, they had 63,000 people watching the sunrise every morning. They're like, hey, it's working, let's keep doing it, okay? And so when you do something that's getting results, keep doing it. Now, the next thing that you want to do is you want to look at who you know that's getting results you want. And by getting results that you want, I mean really getting results you want. There are a lot of people who look like they're doing well financially, but they're not. There are a lot of people who flash all these, I made 7 figures, but they really only made $100,000 after you take out all their expenses. There are a lot of people who talk about the size of their team and the size of their downline and all these things that they've done, but when you look at their taxes, they are not making any money. So you really want to know them who labor among you. Who is getting the results you want? Now look, if you're a poet or a comic and you copy somebody else's work, you're a hack. Don't do that. All right. But if you copy successful business people and what they're doing, now you're useful. You're bringing that content to a whole nother audience. I tell people when they come to my conferences, none of this stuff is really new. That we're making these old principles, these time-tested success strategies relevant to a new generation, right? We're making them relevant to you. And if you feel like you want to teach these contents to your audience, I'm not going to have a bone to pick about that. I'm just going to ask that you change the name and personalize it to your audience. I got my audience and my style. You got your audience and your style. Just, be polite, right? But in business, people benchmark all the time. And now you're being helpful to a whole new group of people who may not otherwise have heard the message. Do what the best are doing. Do what they're doing. Do what the successful people in your life are doing. And then think about what you can learn from your very best customers. I love this because, the Pareto principle says that your best customers are going to be like a small percentage, like 20% of your overall customer base, right? So like 20% of your customers are going to give you 80% of your overall results. And I found that to be true, right? Like when I first learned this and I looked at my customers, I realized, oh my goodness, my best customers, they buy my courses, they do the financial coaching, they forward my posts. And I tell you, before I started analyzing, I actually thought my best customers were just those who hired me for concierge financial planning. Like that was the big money, right? But it actually wasn't those clients. It was actually the women in my age group or slightly more mature who had hope for the first time in their lives about winning with money. And they would bring their friends to my conferences, to my courses, to my podcast. And so I realized that over the lifetime, I was profiting more from serving them than from any other category. And I realized I needed to take better care of my ladies. And that's another one of the success principles that we're going to talk about later. We're going to talk about how you don't treat everybody the same because they're not the same. There's a difference between first class and someone who's not first class. So we want to treat people equally, but that doesn't mean in our business that we treat them all the same. If you just leave those customers over there because you've got them and you spend all your time trying to get new business, well, maybe you're going to lose some. And it's a lot easier to keep a happy customer than it is to go and find another one. It's a lot easier to say to a valued, happy customer, hey, you're happy in what we're delivering right now. What else would you like? What else can we provide for you? I just love it when we hear back what people need. I recently polled my Facebook group to see what they wanted more of, and I started delivering more of that. Success leaves clues. You just got to look for them. And all this time, I'm telling you, if you have not done a call, like with all this COVID and everything, if you have not done a call with all your clients and gotten on with your clients and said, hey, tell me what you need, right? Even if it's not something I do, tell me what you need. You got to do it. I put out a call the other day on Facebook. I needed somebody to help me with DJing. And I had about 6 people come in. Boom. They knew somebody who knew somebody. Now, I had known a few DJs, but I didn't know everybody. Right? They helped me solve a problem and helped me solve somebody else's problem. Okay? The point is, these people who were solving my problem, they had nothing to do with the industry that I'm in. But I had a problem. And if you can just listen into your clients and find out what their problem is, even if it's in an area that you don't provide a service, you make yourself indispensable, right? You go from zero to hero. Now you're useful. And how hard is it for you to just do a listening call? I just want to get you guys on the call. Just tell me, I know I provide this service. I provide insurance for you. I'm your car mechanic. I'm your florist. I know we do this service for you. But is there anything else that you need? And they may need help with technology. And you may know somebody. And if you can make yourself indispensable, if you can make yourself a resource, you make yourself useful. And it's sincere. It's genuine, and it's strategic. 20% of your customers. Your top customers give you 80% of your revenue. So they're worth looking after, all right? I suppose it probably is worth calling them like one-on-one and asking them what they need. You know, the 80-20 rule also applies to pretty much everything. You know, you probably wear 20% of your clothes 80% of the time. And, you know, the most precious gift we have is our time. How are we spending our time? We got to think about spending our time, okay? The things that are mattering the most, the things that are most important to you, must never be at the mercy of the things that matter least. If we find ourselves spending 80% of our time on unimportant things, we're not going to be successful. And it also applies to your team. If you have a group of people in a larger organization, again, 80% of the people are not doing that much. 20% of the people are producing the results. And so if you think, you know, well, I got my team split into 5. You've got your 1s, your low performers, your 2s, your 3s, your 4s, and your 5s, your high performers. Well, where do the results come from on your team? Well, the ones that are producing very little, they're kind of a nuisance, right? And they're probably just trying to hang on as long as they can and get paid, right? And like you're trying to look for ways to legally get rid of them, right? But your results are coming from your top performance or your top performers, that 20%, your 5s, the ones that are producing all the results. But where do you spend your time? Where do you spend the most precious resource you have? You probably spend very little time with the star performers because they appear to be self-sufficient. This is the mistake that I made. Where, you know, you spend all of your time, increasing amounts of time, going down to the 80%. You're spending that time with people who are probably rarely going to improve because they're either in the wrong job or they're in the wrong organization. So you actually don't really want to spend your time there. You want to spend your time with the top percent. I mean, think of the result that you could get with your top performers if you invested 80% of your time in them instead of just a small amount of time with them. It's not just time, it's money, it's relationships, it's everything, y'all. And if you're operating from the highest level of awareness of mastery, you're seeing success leaves clues. What successful people do is they hire people before they need them. They get them in, they get them trained, they get them connected with the culture. They learn the business when it's not a stressful time, right? They don't wait for the busy season. They hire when everyone else lets go of their seasonal employees, capitalizing on it when the time comes. Why is that? Because success leaves clues. And this is what the most successful entrepreneurs do. Most successful business people do. So don't spend your time with the low performers. Don't spend all your time with the low performers. You can learn a lot from your team and where you spend your time and your customers. And in fact, your customers, your team, your peers, your competition, like everybody is really your teacher, okay? And now, let me ask you this. Yourself. Where are you spending your time on yourself? Are you spending time developing yourself, or do you spend 80% of your time beating yourself down? All of these things can help you look for the tracks that success leaves. Success leaves clues. And you're going to uncover many of these clues in this new time-tested success strategy series that we are doing to close out our year as part of the countdown to your best year ever. Those of you who haven't been with me for as long, you will be delighted to know that we do this at the end of every year. And last year, we pushed it back from November, December to January, February due to the passing of my father. We actually finished the countdown to your best year ever right before COVID started. And I'm going to tell you now, everyone who completed that course, 100% who did the exercises, they grew this year in their business. Despite COVID, despite all the things that have happened in 2020. So register for the class. You can find it at buildingwealthtogether.com when you click all classes. And you'll see, right now, you'll see registration for Black and Gold Friday. That's free. And I'll tell you what, you want to be there. It is time out for doing everything for everybody else. It's time to invest in yourself, y'all. buildingwealthtogether.com. Join me there. I'm JJ Conway. I want to thank you for watching. For those of you who will later catch this on the Building Wealth Together podcast, I want to encourage you to join our Facebook group where you'll get these live and bonus teachings as well as behind the scenes snippets, guide sheets, and other cool stuff to download. That's all I have for you today. Y'all take care and be blessed. Love the podcast? Be sure to like, subscribe, and forward to 3 friends. You can ask a question or take a life-changing class at buildingwealthtogether.com. Now, go walk in abundance and leave a legacy.